You'll rot alone, Reuben. The kids already hate you. I made sure of that. Kayla said it 2 inches from my face, in our kitchen, 3 weeks before she filed for divorce. She was smiling when she said it. I didn't say a word back. I just walked out to my truck and sat there until my hands stopped shaking, because I already had the folder. She just didn't know it yet. My name is Reuben Russell, 34 years married to that woman, 3 kids, and she spent the last 2 of those years turning them against me, one lie at a time, while I was out on job sites paying for a house that had become a courtroom against me. It started with small things. Amelie, my oldest, stopped hugging me. Then Aaron. Then Gracie, my baby, wouldn't even sit next to me at dinner. I asked Kayla what was wrong with them. She said I was imagining it, said kids just grow distant. Growing up doesn't make a 13-year-old flinch when her father reaches for her shoulder. I found the truth by accident. Came home early from a job in Akron and heard my own voice through my daughter's bedroom door. Except it wasn't live, it was a recording. Kayla had spliced together old arguments, cut them so I sounded like a man who never wanted his own children. She'd been playing it for them for months. Your father doesn't want you, your father only cares about the money. 2 years of that, drip by drip, while I broke my back to keep the lights on. I sat in the driveway 40 minutes before I could walk inside my own house. After that, I started recording everything, every dinner, every phone call. I hired a lawyer, Arthur Berry, sharp, patient, told him one thing: don't file anything yet. I need to know how deep this goes. It went deeper than I thought. Kayla had been meeting a man named John Black for 18 months. Her college boyfriend resurfaced online, just catching up. My lawyer's investigator pulled messages where she told John, once the divorce goes through, Reuben won't have a leg to stand on. The kids already believe what I need them to believe. 2 weeks ago, she filed. Full custody, the house, 60% of my pension, a no-contact order for 6 months to let the children heal from the damage their father caused. I told Arthur to let her have it all on paper, sign nothing final, because I wasn't going to win this in a filing cabinet. I was going to win it in a courtroom, in front of my kids, where the truth could finally reach them. Today was that day. Cuyahoga County Justice Center, courtroom 4B. Kayla sat across the aisle in a cream blazer, hair done, looking like a woman who already had her hands on everything. Amelie wouldn't meet my eyes. Aaron stared at his phone. Gracie sat between them like she wanted to disappear. Mr. Russell, the judge said, a woman named Hamilton, your wife's counsel alleges a pattern of emotional neglect on your part. Do you wish to respond? Kayla's mouth curled at the corner, that same smile she gave me in the kitchen. I stood up and opened my briefcase. Your Honor, I'd like to submit evidence before we go further. Her lawyer, Martin Compton, half rose. This is highly irregular. You'll hear it anyway, I said. 62 pages, transcripts of the spliced recordings, messages between Kayla and John Black, dated, timestamped, 18 months of it. And page 1, a recording from 3 weeks ago, Kayla's own voice on the phone with her sister, laughing. Once he's out of the picture, he'll pay for everything and see none of them. That's the plan. The judge read it, then looked up at Kayla, then looked at my kids. And Gracie, my 13-year-old, the one who wouldn't even look at me an hour ago, slowly turned in her seat and stared at her mother like she was seeing her for the first time. That's where I'm leaving it. Drop the city you're watching from before we go further. I want to see how far this one travels.
The judge set the folder down slow, like it had weight to it beyond paper. Nobody in that courtroom moved. Not Compton, not Kayla, not even the bailiff by the door. Mrs. Russell, Judge Hamilton said, I'd like to hear this recording in full before we proceed. Kayla's lawyer stood up fast. Your Honor, the admissibility of a covertly recorded phone conversation is questionable at best. We'd ask for time to— Ohio is a one-party consent state, counsel, the judge said, not even looking at him. Mr. Russell's device was in his own kitchen. Sit down. I watched Compton's face fall. He hadn't done his homework. He'd walked in thinking this was a formality, a rubber stamp on a custody deal his client had already celebrated with her boyfriend. The recording played through the courtroom speaker, tinny but clear enough. Kayla's voice, laughing, talking to her sister Molly about the plan, about how the kids already believed what she needed them to believe, about me paying for a house I'd never sleep in again and seeing 3 kids who'd been taught to flinch from me. I didn't look at Kayla while it played. I looked at my children. Amelia's jaw was tight, staring straight ahead, the way she used to when she was little and trying not to cry at a doctor's office. Aaron had gone pale, phone forgotten in his lap. And Gracie was crying without making a sound, tears just running down while she stared at the side of her mother's face. When the recording ended, the courtroom was dead silent except for the hum of the vents. Mrs. Russell, Judge Hamilton said, is that your voice on this recording? Kayla's composure cracked for the first time since I'd known her capable of cracking. Your Honor, context matters here. I was upset. I was venting to my sister. People say things when they're— Did you say those words? A long pause. Yes, but it doesn't mean— It means exactly what it sounds like it means, the judge said. I've been on this bench 19 years, Mrs. Russell. I know coaching when I hear it, and this recording describes coaching in your own words. Compton tried to recover. Your Honor, regardless of one conversation taken out of context, the underlying custody evaluation still stands. Mr. Russell's work schedule alone— Counsel, the judge cut him off. I'm ordering a continuance. I want a court-appointed guardian ad litem to interview all 3 children separately, without either parent present, and I want a forensic audio review of the recordings Mr. Russell submitted regarding alleged manipulation of the minor children. Custody arrangements will remain temporary and joint until that review is complete.
Kayla stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. Your Honor, that's not— He can't just— Sit down, Mrs. Russell, the judge said. You'll get your hearing. Everyone will. I sat there and let it wash over me. This feeling I hadn't had in 2 years. Not victory exactly. Something closer to being able to breathe. Court recessed at 11:40 that morning. My kids filed out with Kayla because the temporary order hadn't kicked in yet, because paperwork takes hours even when a judge says the word now. I watched Gracie glance back at me once from the hallway, quick like she wasn't allowed to. Then Kayla's hand landed on her shoulder and steered her toward the elevator. Arthur caught up to me in the parking garage. That went about as well as it could have gone today, he said, but I need to ask you something, and I need you honest with me. Go ahead. How long have you had that phone call, the one with her sister? 3 weeks. He stopped walking. 3 weeks? And you sat on it? I needed to know if it was the only one. I needed to know how far this went back. I unlocked my truck, leaned against the door. Arthur, she's been doing this since Gracie was 11. 11! I've got a private investigator's report going back 18 months of messages with John Black, and I think there's more. I think this didn't start with him. Arthur's face changed. What do you mean? I think Kayla's done this before. Different counselor, 3 different times over the years, and every single time the kids came out the other side a little colder toward me. I want you to pull every counselor she's seen since 2019. Every one. He was quiet a second. That's a lot of digging, Reuben. That's expensive. I don't care what it costs. I want to know exactly how long she's been planning to erase me. He nodded slowly, understanding settling into his face. All right, I'll start Monday. I drove back to the apartment I'd been renting since Kayla changed the locks on the house 2 months ago, before any court had granted her that right, but I hadn't fought it, because Arthur said, pick your battles, and I was saving mine today. That night, my phone buzzed, a text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Amelie. Don't tell Mom I texted you. I need to talk to you. Not on the phone. Can you meet me somewhere tomorrow, alone? My hands went cold reading it. Amelie hadn't spoken more than 10 words to me in 2 years. I texted back, anywhere, anytime. Just tell me where. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. The diner on Lorraine Avenue, 4 p.m. I have to show you something on my phone. Something Mom doesn't know I saved. I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time after that, staring at the screen, my chest tight with something between hope and dread. Because if my 17-year-old had been saving evidence of her own, that meant she'd known something was wrong for a lot longer than I realized and been too scared to say it out loud.
The diner on Lorraine Ave was half empty at 4 in the afternoon, fluorescent lights humming over cracked vinyl booths. I got there 20 minutes early and picked a table in the back corner, facing the door, the way you do when you're nervous about something you can't name yet. Amelie walked in at 4:03, hood up, glancing over her shoulder like she'd been followed. She slid into the booth across from me and didn't say hi, just put her phone face down on the table between us. I don't have long, she said. I told Mom I was at Avis. Okay. I kept my voice level, even though my heart was going. Take your time. She was quiet for a second, picking at the edge of a napkin. Then she looked up at me, and for the first time in 2 years, I saw my daughter in her eyes instead of a stranger. I need you to know I didn't believe all of it. Some of it, yeah, for a while, but not all of it. Believe what, exactly? That you didn't want us, that you loved your job more than us, that you were the reason her and Dad— She stopped, corrected herself. The reason you and Mom fought all the time. We didn't fight all the time, I said quietly. I know that now. She turned the phone over and slid it across the table. I started recording stuff on my phone about 8 months ago, after Gracie asked me why you didn't love us anymore, and I didn't have an answer for her. I got scared, so I started keeping stuff, just in case. I picked up the phone. There was a folder of voice memos, dated, going back to November. Play the one from March, the one with Grandma Molly. I hit play. It was Kayla's mother, Molly Hamilton, no relation to the judge, a coincidence that rattled around my head all day. You did the same thing with your first marriage, Kayla. You did it to Marcus, told those kids their father was a deadbeat until they believed it, and now look, they don't talk to him either. You can't keep doing this to people. It's different this time, Kayla's voice answered. Reuben's not fighting for them. He never fights for anything. That's the whole point. I set the phone down. My hands weren't steady. First marriage? I said slowly. Your mother was married before me? Amelie nodded. I didn't know either, not until I heard that. There's a half-brother somewhere. Marcus Jr., I think. He'd be like 30 now. Grandma mentioned him once at Thanksgiving, and Mom shut it down so fast I never brought it up again. I sat there, letting that land. 34 years I thought I knew this woman. A marriage before me. A child before Amelie, Aaron, and Gracie. Erased, the same way she was trying to erase me. Amelie, I said carefully, why are you telling me this now? Why not 2 years ago?
Her eyes filled up fast and she wiped at them angrily, the way teenagers do when they hate that they're crying. Because Gracie cried in the car after court today. She never cries. And Mom she just told her to stop being dramatic, didn't even look at her. And I realized I've been protecting the wrong parent this whole time. You're not protecting anyone by staying quiet now. You're protecting them by telling the truth, all 3 of you. Aaron won't talk to you yet. He's still mad. Not at you, really, at himself, for believing it so easy. She wrapped her arms around herself. But Gracie wants to see you. She's been asking me every night if she can call you, and I keep telling her to wait until things are safer. Safer how? Amelia's face went tight.
Mom found out somebody's been talking to a lawyer's investigator. She thinks it's Grandma Molly. She screamed at her on the phone last night, said if anyone else talks to your side, she's cutting off contact completely, moving us to Aunt Ava's place in Columbus before the custody thing is even decided. The floor seemed to tilt under the table. You can't just move you kids out of state mid-proceeding. She said the order's only temporary. She said by the time anyone catches up to her, she'll already be gone. I looked at my daughter, 17 years old, carrying 2 years of guilt and a phone full of proof she'd been too scared to hand over until today, and I understood exactly what I had to do next. Amelie, I need you to send me that recording right now, all of them, and I need you to tell me exactly when your mother is planning to leave. Amelie's hands were shaking as she reached for her phone. Dad, if she finds out I did this... She stopped herself, looked at me like she'd surprised herself with the word. Dad, first time in 2 years. She won't find out from me, I said, and my voice came out rougher than I meant it to. I promise you that. Amelie nodded, wiped her face one more time, and started forwarding files. Her phone buzzed once, twice, 3 times with upload confirmations. Then it buzzed a 4th time, not an upload, a call coming in. Mom. Amelie's whole body went rigid. She looked at me, terrified, phone lighting up between us on the table. She's not supposed to know I'm here, she whispered. If she's calling right now on a Tuesday in the middle of the day... The phone kept ringing. She knows. Dad, I think she already knows.
Amelie let the call ring out. 4 rings, then silence. Then her screen lit up again almost immediately. Mom, too. Answer it. Act normal. Tell her you're at Ava's. Tell her you'll be home in 20 minutes. Don't give her anything. Amelie nodded, took a breath, and picked up. Hey, yeah, I'm at Ava's. We're just... Okay, I'm leaving now. She hung up and looked at me, pale. She wants me home right now. She sounded weird. Fast. Fast how? Like she was already in the car. Amelie grabbed her bag, hands still shaking. Dad, what if she's already loading stuff? What if tonight's the night she goes to Columbus? I was already calling Arthur. He picked up on the 2nd ring. Reuben, what's... She's moving them. Tonight, maybe. Amelie just heard her on the phone sounding like she's already packing. I need an emergency order, right now, today, to block relocation. Judges don't grant emergency motions same day without... Arthur, I have a recording of her admitting to coaching all 3 kids, a guardian ad litem review already ordered this morning, and now evidence she's planning to flee the jurisdiction mid-proceeding with a minor whose custody is legally undecided. If that's not an emergency, I don't know what you went to law school for. There was a pause, then the sound of him grabbing keys. Get me everything Amelie sent you. Text me the file names right now. I'll call Judge Hamilton's clerk and see if we can get an emergency ex parte hearing before end of day. I looked at Amelie. Go home, act like nothing happened. If she asks why you're late, tell her Ava's mom made you stay for dinner prep. Whatever, something boring. What if she's already gone when I get there? What about Gracie and Aaron? Then you call me the second you know anything, and you call 911 if you think she's actually left the state without informing anyone. That's a legal violation the second the temporary joint order is filed, which it already was, this morning. Amelie's eyes were wide, but she nodded, grabbed her bag, and ran for the door. I watched her get into a car I didn't recognize, a friend's probably, since her license had been suspended after a fender bender last year. Another 2 years of my daughter's life happening without me. I sat in that diner booth alone for a minute, staring at my own hands on the table. Then my phone rang. Arthur. Clerk's pulling Judge Hamilton out of a hearing right now. She remembers this morning. She's not happy about being interrupted, but she's not happy about relocation attempts either. Get to the courthouse, 20 minutes. I made it in 15. The emergency hearing wasn't in a full courtroom, just Judge Hamilton's chambers, Arthur, me, and Compton, who looked like he'd been dragged out of a lunch meeting and was furious about it. Your Honor, this is an ambush. My client has made no formal indication of relocating anywhere. Then she won't mind confirming that on the record.
Judge Hamilton said, flatly. She looked at me. Mr. Russell, what evidence do you have?
Arthur laid it out. Amelia's recordings, the timestamp on the call, the pattern of Kayla shutting down anyone who spoke to my investigator, her mother Molly's own words about a first marriage and an erased son. The judge's face didn't move much, but her pen stopped writing at the mention of the first marriage. Marcus Russell? Excuse me, Marcus, previous surname unclear. Is that documented anywhere? The judge asked. We're pulling records now, Your Honor, Arthur said. Ohio Vital Statistics, prior divorce filings under a maiden or previous married name. The judge set her pen down. I'm issuing a temporary restraining order effective immediately, barring Mrs. Russell from relocating the minor children outside Cuyahoga County pending the outcome of the guardian ad litem review. Someone get me Mrs. Russell's counsel on the phone within the hour to confirm she's been served. Compton's jaw tightened. Your Honor, with respect, this is built on a teenager's phone recordings and a rumor about a prior marriage no one's confirmed. Then your client should have no trouble confirming or denying it herself, the judge said. Counsel, I suggest you call her now, because if she's already crossed a county line with those children, I will have no choice but to treat this as parental abduction, and that is a very different conversation. Compton stepped out of chambers, phone already to his ear. I watched him through the glass, pacing, his face changing as whoever was on the other end talked. He came back in looking like a man whose whole case had just evaporated. Your Honor, he said quietly, my client says she's still at the house. She says the children are with her. Good, Judge Hamilton said. Then she won't mind an officer confirming that within the hour. I sat there in that chamber, and for the first time since this whole thing started, I let myself believe I might actually get my kids back. But Arthur, sitting beside me, wasn't smiling. He leaned over while the judge finished writing the order. Reuben, he said quietly, I need to tell you something before this goes further. I had someone pull Kayla's previous marriage record while we were driving over. And it's real. Marcus Russell, Sr., divorced in 2003, one son, Marcus Jr., full custody awarded to the father after a judge found evidence of parental alienation. He paused. Same finding, same pattern, word for word almost in the old case file. I felt something cold settle behind my ribs. She's done this before, I said. This isn't the first time she's tried to erase a family. No, Arthur said. And there's one more thing in that file you need to see before we walk out of this building. Marcus Jr.'s current address is 40 minutes from here. He turned his laptop toward me. He's been trying to find his half-siblings for 6 years. Reuben, I think you need to call him before the day's over. I called Marcus Jr. that night from the parking lot outside Arthur's office, sitting in my truck with the engine off, staring at a phone number Arthur had written on a legal pad like it was nothing, like it wasn't about to blow the last piece of Kayla's story wide open. He picked up on the third ring. Careful voice, the voice of a man who'd been let down before. This is going to sound strange, I said. My name's Reuben Russell. I think your mother is my wife. Silence on the line. Long enough I thought he'd hung up. She told me and my dad she didn't want anything to do with us, he said, finally. Said it herself in court when I was 6. Said she couldn't handle a difficult kid. His voice cracked slightly. I'm 31 now. I've spent 25 years thinking I was the reason my mother left. You weren't, I said. I don't think you ever were. I told him what I had, the recordings, the pattern, the 3 kids on the other end of the same playbook she'd used on him a generation earlier. He was quiet for a long time, and when he spoke again, his voice had changed, steadier, angrier, more certain. I'll sign whatever affidavit your lawyer needs, he said. I'll testify. 25 years, and finally somebody believes me.
That affidavit landed on Judge Hamilton's desk 4 days later, alongside the Guardian ad litem's report. 3 separate interviews, 3 kids, 3 accounts that lined up with everything Amelie had handed me in that diner booth. Gracie had told the Guardian, in her own words, that her mother made her practice what to say about Dad before visits with a counselor. Aaron admitted he'd stopped believing most of it a year ago, but was scared saying so out loud would make Kayla stop loving him too. The final hearing was in October, 6 weeks after that first courtroom scene. No cream blazer this time. Kayla sat next to Compton, smaller than I'd ever seen her, hands folded tight in her lap. Judge Hamilton didn't waste time. This court finds a clear and sustained pattern of parental alienation, corroborated by direct testimony from 3 minor children, forensic audio analysis, and evidence of an identical pattern in a prior custody matter 25 years ago involving the respondent's first marriage. This is not a case of 2 flawed parents making mistakes. This is a documented, repeated strategy.
She granted me primary custody, supervised visitation for Kayla, contingent on completing a court-ordered parenting evaluation, and a minimum of 1 year of individual counseling before any modification would even be considered. The house went up for sale, proceeds split, but the number didn't matter to me anymore. It hadn't mattered in a long time. Kayla didn't look at me when the judge finished. She looked at her hands. For a second, just a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered Gracie's face in that first hearing, tears sliding down while she stared at her mother like a stranger, and the feeling passed. Outside the courthouse, Amelie was waiting with Aaron and Gracie. The Guardian ad litem process had let them stay with me for the 6 weeks leading up to this hearing. My apartment had 2 extra air mattresses and a lot of takeout containers, but it had also had something the house on Maple Street never really had again after those recordings started. Quiet. Honesty. Nobody performing for anybody. Gracie ran at me the second I stepped outside, 13 years old and small in my arms the way she'd been at 6. "Is it over?" she asked into my jacket. "Is it actually over?" "It's over," I said. "You're staying with me." Aaron stood back a little, hands in his pockets, still working through 2 years of guilt he hadn't asked for. I put a hand on his shoulder, and he let it stay there. "I'm sorry I believed her," he said quietly, "for so long." "You were a kid being told a story by the person you trusted most," I said. "That was not on you. That was never on you." Amelie was the one who finally cried, right there on the courthouse steps, the same girl who'd slid a phone at a diner with hands shaking harder than she'd let herself show at the time. "You believed me," she said. "That day at the diner. You believed me right away." "You're my daughter. I was always going to believe you. I just needed you to trust me enough to say it." Marcus Jr. came to Thanksgiving that year, my first real one back with all 3 kids under one roof, plus a half-brother none of them had known existed a year earlier, sitting at the far end of a table I'd bought secondhand because I liked the idea of starting somewhere that wasn't Maple Street. He and Aaron ended up talking football for 2 hours straight. Gracie showed him a sketchbook. Small things, ordinary things, the kind of things I'd almost lost the chance to see. Kayla called once, in December, asking to speak to Gracie. I let Gracie decide. She held the phone for 4 minutes, said almost nothing, and handed it back to me with red eyes, and didn't ask to talk to her mother again for a while after that. I used to think winning meant getting even, making Kayla feel exactly what she'd made me feel, small, humiliated, erased in front of people I loved. And for one afternoon in that courthouse, watching her face when the recording played, I got that. I won't pretend it didn't feel like something. But sitting at that Thanksgiving table months later, watching Gracie laugh with a brother she didn't know she had a year before, watching Amelie call me Dad like it was the easiest word in the world again, that was the part that actually mattered. Not the folder, not the courtroom. This. Kayla spent 34 years building a story where I was the villain because it was easier to telling the truth.
It took one recording, one scared 17-year-old, and a judge who knew coaching when she heard it to bring the whole thing down. She tried to erase me from my kids' lives. Instead, she erased herself from her own.